Michael, we got Alain on the line here. What do you want to ask him?
What is the first thing you do on day one when you take over the asset?
Day one is a very busy day. There are a lot of things that you have to onboard. You want the takeover to be as smooth as possible. Now, having said that, the takeover activities should start prior to closing. We do sit down on a meeting with property management 3 to 4 weeks before closing. And discussion items include the business plan, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter, and also including the year business plan items. Now, if you do not do those things prior to close, then you're already running behind by day one.
Hey, welcome to the Diary of Apartment Investor podcast. I'm your host, Brian Briscoe with Four Oaks Capital. Very excited for today's show. It's one of our Ask the Expert episodes. We've got two amazing people on the line with us right now, a man with a ton of experience in this and other fields, Alain Villegas, and a motivated, energetic, aspiring investor, Michael Barnhart. Tell you a little bit about Alain, and then we'll hop right into the show. Alain's a full-time commercial real estate investor. He established a real estate investment company, Alains Investments, in 2012. He's a managing partner of Abundance Equity Partners and active asset manager on 9 properties, 1,370 apartment units total. His total ownership stake is in over 2,600 units as a deal sponsor, key principal, independent owner, or limited partner. And that said, Alain, welcome to the show.
Brian, thank you for having me on your show, and to all the listeners, thank you for your time. I'm a chemical engineer by education and currently working on the IT consulting industry. Around 3 years ago, I moved into apartments, and now I'm doing this full time.
Yeah, I love it. And just for all the listeners, the two of us met a year ago. It was the last real estate conference I went to before COVID shut everything down. But it's a pleasure having you on again. And so let's talk a little bit more about your history. I know you're a chemical engineer, working in that field. Give us a little bit more of your background and history.
Yeah, so in 2012, I still have a W-2 job then, and I was doing real estate investing on the side, owning a few single-family rentals and a small apartment. And by 2007, we did well. The cash flow on single-family rentals are really nice. And by 2017, my wife and I were able to have a considerable liquidity. And we needed to deploy our capital. We sold some of our single-family rentals. And with that liquidity, we decided to jump into apartment space. Now, when we started buying single-family rentals, our goal was to replace our W-2 income and retire early. And we have, we did the numbers. We have identified how many doors that we're going to own to be able to get there. But as we started building up our rental portfolio, we noticed that we also spend more time on them. And we realized that we are just replacing our jobs without really freeing our time.
I did the same thing starting with single family homes. And the other thing I noticed is that scaling was going to take a lot of effort. I spreadsheeted everything out, and my number based on the metrics in the place that we were investing, I was going to need like 50 single family homes. And that effort to me seemed like an enormous amount of effort. But anyway, go ahead with your story.
Yeah, so actually we have the same number.
Yeah.
We said, okay, we're going to own 50 single-family rentals. But we are really motivated to step out of corporate world and get back our time. So we started exploring our options. And after doing some study and research, apartment came out as great space. As you mentioned, with economies of scale, apartments enables us as the owner to hire full-time staff. And I knew then that this is where I can realize our goal of stepping away from the corporate world and taking back our time. So that's where the motivation came from in terms of really jumping into apartments.
Yeah. Now, the single-family homes you invested in, were those in your local area?
Yes. Here in Dallas Metro, where I'm based.
Okay, good, good. So when did you transition from the single family to multifamily? And I guess the other question that goes along with that is what did you do to be able to make that transition?
When we decided to jump into multifamily, we just think of doing it ourselves, and we spent almost a year trying to get deals, talking to brokers, underwriting properties, and we ended up with zero doors. And we realized, me and my wife realized that, hey, this is not the same as the single family space where you can do it by yourself. We need to build a team, and so I joined an investor group. And right after joining that investor group, we were able to find success in getting acquisitions, buying some deals, and we did not look back since then.
Yeah. So what do you think the difference was before and after that group? I mean, what really made the difference for you in joining that group?
So the thing is, in multifamily, there are a lot of pieces in order to build a deal, and you need brokers, you need a property management company, you need contractors, legal counsel, and that's what you get in joining a group. The group the investment group already has vetted vendors. And it becomes very easy to build your team. Now, having all these people, including the mortgage broker, insurance companies, you're already sure that these vendors, this team that you're building, will be able to support you. And once I joined in, it was very easy because at the same time that we are presenting ourselves, having this team behind us also provides us credibility to the sellers. Yes. And that's what it takes. Apartment is a relationship business, and you need to have this strong relationship with your team in order to be successful and get offers accepted.
Yeah, a lot of parallels to how I went through it. I mean, I was touring, 6-unit complex. There's 8 units, things like that, trying to do it on my own. And it wasn't until I did the exact same thing, joined a group, paid for coaching, and then built that team around me. It wasn't until then that I actually started getting traction. And I was putting out offers, every other week. But I think you hit the nail on the head. You need to have a credibility with the sellers and the brokers, and the team gives you the credibility. So I think that's a very common trend with a lot of people who get into our position, later on, is they got to figure out a way to become a we and not just an I doing things. Good. So you started looking at multifamily. Now, most of your properties are in the DFW area, but you have a couple in Houston, right?
Yeah, I actually have one in Houston, and the other one is in Abilene. So
okay.
That's how, yeah. And 7 are in Dallas Metro.
Okay, nice. So walk us through, one of those properties, pick either your favorite one or a recent one, and give us an idea of one of the properties you've invested in, you've sponsored.
Yeah, so I have sponsored 9 Class B and C properties, and I'm an active asset manager for all. We are fortunate to be able to ride out the COVID period. That we were able to maintain the performance and distribute cash flow to the investors. But talking to you today is actually a perfect timing because yesterday, one of our investors published a case study about his investment with us on a deal that we own in Fort Worth, Texas. And I'm going to talk about that. So we bought that property in 2018, and on year 1, we returned 11% cash flow. And we were already planning to sell it last year until COVID hit. We feel that with the pandemic, there will be pricing discount if we sell it. And so we started planning for refinance instead. So we had the property appraised, and the valuation came out 67% higher. So in less than 2 years, we were able to increase the property value by 67% compared to the price that we purchased it. It was my second deal, actually, so we really put a focus on that. And we decided that instead of selling, we will just refinance. So in 2020, we are still fortunate to have the property performing. So from operations, we returned 7%, and from the refinance 44% to our investors. And so the cash flow for last year was total of 51%. So after 2 years of ownership, we have returned a total of 62% of the investors' money already. Here's the thing. It's amazing, but due to lower interest rates, our debt service is lower despite having an increase in our loan. So our cash flow position is even better as we continue to hold on this investment. So, and I think that triggered one of our investment to write a case study. And I already have many investors who said, "Hey, Alain, if there's some investors that comes to me and looking for recommendation, we just recommend you because we have great experience with our investments with you."
Yeah, that's awesome. Those numbers are just killer. And I love how you guys were able to just, view what was going on in the market and say, we had planned on selling right now, but it may not be the best time because of what's going on. And that refinance is killer. I mean, 2018 interest rates were, 5 for agency debt, and nowadays you can get, low 3s for agency. So I think that's an absolute killer deal. Usually when you refinance, you're getting a bigger loan and your debt service goes up, which kills cash flow. But you were able to make that work with a lower interest rate, higher debt, and less debt service. So I mean, your numbers should just absolutely crush pro forma from here on out. Now, here's a question. How did you communicate that to your investors? And were any of them planning on getting their money back this year?
Yeah, so for our investors, we do a monthly reports to them, so they know about what's going on, what's our projections for this year, how are we managing, the challenges that comes with people losing jobs, our tenants potentially losing their income. So we are very proactive on that. And at the same time, we give them what's the current situation of the market, what are we expecting for the year, and where the opportunities will come from. This is just to make sure that, whatever we see, we always, get the feel of where the multifamily investing goes. And we just want to make sure that this information that we have is also communicated to our investors first, so that they will be able to make a decision or an informed decision on whether to continuously invest with us or look for investment elsewhere. And second, also to be able to make sure that we are being proactive in making sure that we are protecting their money that they have trusted in us.
Nice. I love that. Hey, we're going to shift gears slightly here, and I got a question that I like to ask everybody, and that's about your big burning why. What is your motivation? And I know you've talked a little bit about this, throughout your story, getting out of the corporate world, but if you could boil it down to one or two things, what's your big burning why?
So first, we want to spend time with family and friends, and we just want to take back our time. And staying in corporate world will not cut it. Even if you make tons of money there, this company will still own you. You will still have to ask them whenever you say, "Hey, I'm going to vacation." We just want our time back. And second, this time that you have, if you spend it wisely with your family, it goes a long way and on translating it into satisfaction and happiness personally. But at the same time, now that we are doing syndications and apartments, there's also satisfaction in knowing that you're able to provide value to other people as well. So it's not only us, it's not only personal, but also being able to help other people.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just freeing up your own time, but you're giving people a vehicle to be able to earn passive income, mailbox money, as some people call it, and get that exact same thing that you're searching for. So it's one thing that I absolutely love about this business is you get to help other people achieve their dreams at the same time you're reaching for yours. So love it. So what's next for you?
2021 is a very promising year. We just went through the market updates, and it looks great. I mean, we can see a lot of opportunities this year, and me and my partners will continue to do acquisitions this year. We target between 5 to 7 deals, and that's 3 to 4 deals just between me and my two main partners, and between 2 to 3 deals with strategic equity partners. And we also have a stabilized property already that we own, I think 2 to 3 properties, and we're planning to exit them this year. Since, as we discovered during COVID period, this 5 or 6 months that there's no deals on the market. And what we did was we improved our internal business processes, and we will continue doing that. And the reason why is to be able to provide amazing experience to our investors, at the same time continue to give out great returns on their investments with us.
Nice. Now, are you guys continuing to focus in Texas and especially DFW, or are you guys moving your sites elsewhere?
So our main markets right now is DFW and Houston, but we are also looking at opportunities in Florida and North Carolina as well.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, we have one of my partners lives in North Carolina, and another one's moving very soon to North Carolina. So that's a couple of cities in that state that we really like. Not Florida. We haven't delved into Florida yet, but Southeast in general is cooking. I think every time you see a top 10 for multifamily, and it seems like every other day there's a new top 10 list coming out. Dallas, Houston, Florida, and North Carolina are all going to be somewhere on that top 10 list. So all good places. Well, let's shift gears again and bring our aspiring investor, Michael, on the show. Michael Barnhart is co-founder of Adventurous Real Estate Investors. He currently is active duty in the United States Air Force. He's a PhD student in biochemistry at the University of Cambridge in the United Kingdom. And when he's done with his PhD, he'll be working at the U.S. Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs as an assistant professor of biology. Once he finishes his military career, he plans on transitioning into multifamily investing full-time after that. And that said, Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brian. I really appreciate you asking me to be on the show. And Alain, thank you for taking the time to answer some of the questions I'll ask you later. It's a pleasure being on the podcast with you. I've been following you on LinkedIn and Facebook, and I really enjoy your energy. You're always posting videos of dancing and things like that. I really enjoy that. So it's fun.
Yeah, it happens quite often when I link two people up that the aspiring investor will be like, yeah, I know who that is. I follow that guy or whatever. So it's really great. It's great to hear that. So it makes the conversation a lot better, I think. But so let's talk about you a little bit, Michael. Tell us a little bit about you, where you're at, and basically why you decided to get into multifamily.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So as you mentioned in the bio, I'm a PhD student in biochemistry at the University of Cambridge in Cambridge, England, not Massachusetts. And basically, I'm over here. I'm active duty Air Force. I was teaching at the Air Force Academy, teaching genetics and molecular biology. And then basically, I'm continuing my education in PhD, and then I'll return back to the academy to continue teaching in the bio department as an assistant professor. And then I'll finish out my military career and transition to real estate full time at that point. While we were over here, we were in lockdown last year for over 100 days. And so I was kind of out of the lab and basically spending every single day with Susie, my partner in crime, if you will. And we were hanging out, didn't have much to do. And we decided to start reading a lot. And we started, I would read a book and she would read a book. We started these little book clubs, and we'd finish a book together and then we'd talk about it. Well, one of the books we came across was Multiple Streams of Income by Robert Alain. And so we were looking to add additional revenue streams, right? And so the first section of the book is about stock market. We're like, cool, we're in the stock market. Now we got retirement plans set up and things like that. And then the second section is all about real estate. I was like, hang on, I never really thought about real estate that much. Owned some homes, did a kind of like a live and flip, not really understanding the whole thing, but really diving into real estate. So I started Googling, some searching, of course, which found, I ended up on Bigger Pockets. And Bigger Pockets was all about, single family this, single family that, like just get started, which is awesome. They have a great platform. And after that, we started digging a little bit deeper and got hooked up with some military members who are actually overseas as well. And one of those people we hooked up with was Marcus Long. And that was the first person that I talked to about real estate. And he just got me jazzed up. And he's doing a lot of great things. And just got really turned on to real estate. And we just kind of took off from there. After that, we attended Veterans Real Estate Investing Conference that happened last year, put on by Bill Allen and his team or whatever. And one of the speakers on there was actually Whitney Sewell.
Yeah.
And so Whitney, he gave a talk about syndications. I had no idea what syndication meant at that point. He was talking about it in multifamily. I was like, man, that's so cool. I can't wait, in 5 years, that's going to be me, right? And so we paid for the VIP upgrade, which allowed us access to the Q&A session or whatever. So we had like one-on-one with Whitney, and I got to ask him a lot of questions. And he was like, you don't have to do single family first. Here's what you need to read in order to go into multifamily. And even at that point, after all the words of encouragement from him, we were like, well, we need to start somewhere. We decided to start with single family. So we ended up building a long distance investing team in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. What happened was we had 2 properties under contract. And then the unthinkable happened. There was an inland hurricane that happened and basically took out 60% of the trees in, Midland. Cedar Rapids, Iowa is right in the middle of the country, right? So weird hurricane took out all the trees. Making a long story short, we couldn't get the contractor to put a bid on these properties because the contractor was more concerned with repairing the city rather than just doing rehabs for rental properties.
Right.
So those 2 properties fell out of escrow, and our whole plan to buy a bunch of single family homes in Cedar Rapids kind of went out the window with that. We couldn't get any contractors or anything like that. So Susie and I took a step back, looked at our goals, our 5-year goals, multifamily, said, hey, let's just go ahead and tackle that. Whitney said we could do it. Let's do it. And so actually the first networking event that we attended was yours, Brian.
Nice.
So that really propelled us and got our network growing. We met all of our, most of our team members through your networking group, and it just like allowed our multifamily network to grow exponentially since there. And so after that, one of my good friends, a classmate of mine who's full-time real estate now, I've known him for like 15 years. He's in Oklahoma City. So we started chatting and I started talking about, multifamily with him. And his whole thing is he wants to move into multifamily. And I was like, cool, let's tackle this together. You can be my boots on the ground since you're full-time real estate. You can be my boots on the ground for Oklahoma City and Tulsa. And we'll kind of run everything else. I'll do broker relations and acquisitions. I'll underwrite and everything like that from here. And Susie will focus on investor relations and marketing and things like that. We just need eyes and ears on the ground. So needless to say, we finally got a property under contract and we'll be closing in February. So that's kind of our real estate, our multifamily journey in the last 9 months, basically.
Yeah, that's nice and that's quick, and it's been fun following your guys' progress too. I mean, you mentioned your wife; she was on the podcast earlier. So if anybody's listening wants to check up on that part of the story, I just looked it up, episode 43. And Whitney Sewell was just the episode we released on Monday. So a bunch of really, really good people. And I actually had tickets to that conference you were talking about when it was live. They ended up closing it down. And when it went virtual, I actually decided not to do it. But I was just like, virtual, what's that? But anyway, yeah, a lot of good stuff there to be able to unpack. But let's look at your motivation, your big burning why as well. What is it that gets you guys actually doing this?
So I think it kind of aligns with Alain's and yours as well, Brian. It's, as we all know, wealth is not about how large your balance sheet is, but rather it's about having the time to do what you want when you want to do it, right? My burning why, or Susie and I's burning why, is to pursue time freedom, right? So during lockdown, as I mentioned, we spent over 100 days together, and we really got to know each other on an even deeper level. It was just amazing to spend all that time with her. And so going back to the lab, going back to work and things like that, spending time apart now, we want to be able to create wealth through time freedom to be able to spend more time together. And so, Brian, I'm a little bit further away from retiring from you. I have 2,907 days left until I can retire from the Air Force, which is well over 7 years, but I'm on the way. And, after that, I'll transition to real estate full time, and we're going to transition to more of a passive role. And
I'm at 184 today.
Yep,
So.
I knew you have a day count. So
184. So yeah, getting super, super close. But well, that is awesome. Hey, so Michael, we got Alain on the line here. What do you want to ask him?
Yeah, Alain. So I kind of want to dig into your asset management skills a little bit. Since a lot of people talk about acquisitions, let's talk about asset management on this podcast. So the first question I have is, what is the first thing you do on day one when you take over the asset? Do you have a 30, 60, 90-day plan for takeover? And how's that whole thing unfold for you?
Yeah, so day one is a very busy day. There are a lot of things that you have to onboard. And with the business plan and operational changes, you want the takeover to be as smooth as possible. And then there may be some hiccups, and you have to inform the tenants of the change in ownership and management so that this will create excitement in the community. Now, having said that, the takeover activities should start prior to closing. We do sit down on a meeting with property management 3 to 4 weeks before closing. And discussion items include the business plan, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter, and also including the year 2 business plan items. Contact information of all the people to be involved in the project, hiring of on-site staff, a review of all service contracts, and start of bidding out for service to replace, services to replace. Notice for utility transfer should be ready. Property management software onboarding should be started. A review of office and maintenance supplies and inventory should also be ready for day of closing. Now, if you do not do those things prior to close, then you're already running behind by day one. So the work comes even before the closing. So day one, it's mostly the items that you cannot do prior to closing, like utilities, water, electric. You cannot transfer it until the name is on the new owners. So most of the items can be done in advance, and there are very few items only that you can do during the time of closing. But let the community know that a new owner is coming. You have a new business plan, and let them know that exciting things are about to come. You'll be making improvements, and you will be making the community even better for your tenants.
That's great. Just a follow-up question to that is, so you're saying, when you let the tenants know that you've taken over the property, in that letter, you basically spell out, hey, these are the kind of things that we're going to be targeting to fix, or to these amenities we're going to be adding. Do you add that in as well?
We just make a general statement that the goal of the new ownership is to make the property and the community better and safer for them.
So next question here is, what has been your biggest challenge when taking over an asset? And what did you learn for it? And how has that changed your strategy moving forward?
Our previous practice before is to have a takeover meeting after we close on the deal. And that was early on our early acquisitions. And as I have just mentioned, if you start that on day one, you're already behind. With a lot of moving pieces, it is easy to miss some takeover items. And what we started doing is to have this pre-closing meeting. We actually have a takeover checklist, and we start a meeting a month out before we close, and then follow up with another meeting a week before closing to make sure that we covered all our items in the takeover checklist. Now, you have to be very thorough in that checklist and make sure that you do not miss some items. Now, there are one of our properties, there was supposed to be a service contract that we have to take over, and it was almost close to a year when we received notice from the service provider that, hey, we are supposed to sign this contract with the new ownership, and we have not yet received any information from you, and we will assess you with penalties for this contract if you will not do so. So make sure that during due diligence, you will be given the list of service contracts for the property. So go over them. Those are important because you may be paying some fines there if you do not take care of those. List down all the items. Do the takeover checklist.
We actually got bit by one of those service contracts. We had a service contract on a property for the exterior cameras and security system. And our new property manager looked at that and said, you guys are overpaying. You guys are overpaying. And I'm going to get you hooked up with something that's a better system. You're going to have better response. It's going to save you guys money. And what we didn't realize is there was a cancellation clause in the contract, and we ended up paying a large fee once he canceled the contract. But yeah, it's something you gotta be meticulous on as far as the contract goes. And anyway, good point you brought up. Make sure you know it's in those contracts. Now, Alain, I got one question for you. I don't usually ask the questions at this point, but I'm just going to jump in. And now your assets are mostly in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Do you use the same property manager on everything? And if so, how does that make things easier on each acquisition?
Yeah, so for our properties in Dallas, we use one property management company. For our property in Houston, it's a different property management. But having the same property management company for our new acquisitions, it makes the takeover process easier. We already know who to communicate in terms of the onboarding process, what are the informations they need, the timing of the activities that we have to do. And at the same time, the people that we work with, we already know them, they already know us, and that makes the process much easier.
Nice. I anticipated that answer, but I just wanted to hear it. I mean, We started, acquiring more and more properties, and we've used the same property manager on most of them. And I echo everything you said. All right, back to you, Michael.
Yeah, so we talked about takeover. Let's move into a little of the operations here. So when developing incentive programs for your property management company, what are the top 2 or 3 KPIs or key performance indicators that you kind of target for those?
Yeah, so I look at 4 important items. But for many, it's very easy to say, hey, occupancy. It jumps out as top of the list, and it is one of the most important information or the most important indicator of the performance of the property. But for me, the most critical is the net operating income, budget versus actual. And the reason for this is it is reflective of the overall performance of your operations. It takes into account both your income side and your expense side. Now, you also want to watch out for your delinquency. You want your delinquency to be kept at 3 to 5%. Ideally, 1% delinquency is desired. But during COVID period, it's expected, and we did see an increase in delinquency. But keep it between 3 to 5%. That's one of the things that you want to look at. And also vacant units. You want to make sure that you always have a vacant unit ready, and this is for you to be able to make sure that if there's a potential tenant, qualified tenant, that wants to move in the same day, it will help your leasing staff to close this deal with the potential tenant. They can easily say, hey, you want a unit today. We already have one ready, and you're qualified. So those are the 4 things: NOI, the occupancy, delinquency, and status of vacant units. Make sure that you're on top of this, because that's what you need to have your property performing well.
Love it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So diving into the occupancy piece real quick, if you're targeting a certain occupancy with your property management company, let's say 95% or something, how do you go about incentivizing this, but also ensuring that the property management company is leasing to quality residents and not offering like unnecessary concessions or lower rent and things like that?
Yeah, so focused marketing efforts is necessary to achieve and maintain high occupancy. So depending on your target demographics, you may have to do advertising in Google, Facebook, or free advertising using Craigslist. You may hand out flyers in nearby employment centers. It works for certain areas, but you need to be consistent on doing the marketing effort that works for the property. So if a Class B property means advertising in Google, then focus on that. If you are just a mile out of employment centers, so there are some businesses near you, and handing flyers there gives you the constant flow of tenants that you need that will live in your property, then continuously do that. Now, having said that, you need to set up a leasing criteria and make sure that the property management follows that leasing criteria when qualifying potential tenants. Now, the criteria depends on your property, whether it's Class A, B, or C, but you have to stick to that. But also not only that, but you also need to make sure that you have a good handle of what your rent comps are offering in terms of concession. You don't want to offer 1 month free when all the other properties in the submarket has high occupancy, is not giving any specials, and also vice versa. So now, in terms of incentives, you want your property to perform well, but the people, your on-site team is very instrumental in that, in getting high occupancy and getting high revenue. Now, you have to give realistic targets in terms of incentives for your on-site team. Start with a lower bonus where it's very to achieve that bonus, but it's higher than your budget. For example, your budget calls for 92% occupancy. You tell them, hey, get me to 94 or get me to 93 and you will get this performance bonus. And as your team hits higher occupancy, higher revenue, also increase the bonuses. So this will motivate your team to hit even higher performance. Once they hit 93, they will think, I think we can get to 95. I think we can get to 97. So if you have a scaling bonus where it increases as they hit a higher level of performance, then it gives them an extra push. Like, hey, I may be able to hit this, and I think we can do this. And there's a performance incentive if we can do this. So it will give them motivation to give that extra push.
Nice. Hey, one last question. We got time for one more.
So you're talking about the scaling bonuses. Is that do you use like a monetary bonus, or days off, or plaques, or what other kind of rewards do you kind of use?
Yeah, so we normally give out cash bonuses to our team. This just have a higher impact for them to motivate them, but what we do is make them feel really appreciated. So as owners, we tell our property management regional manager, we tell them, hey, we want to give out bonus to our team. But what we do is we take them out for lunch. And that allows us to be able to talk to them and for them to also to give us feedback on what we can do more in order to improve the property. And we hand out the bonuses personally. This gives a personal touch. Your on-site team will feel more appreciated if you do this, because it's the owners who are shaking out their hands and giving the incentives to them. And this personal touch goes a long way, and you will have a team fighting and hustling for you, knowing that you're there. You personally acknowledge their achievements and rewarded them accordingly.
Nice. Well, we're about out of time right now. I got one final question for both of you. Actually, before I do that, I definitely appreciated this conversation more, just because I am not the asset manager in our company, and this was all a lot of good stuff that I was taking notes, thinking, hey man, this is make sure we're doing this, make sure we're doing that. Yeah, I know we are doing a lot of what you suggested, but it's nice to hear a different aspect on stuff. So Michael, thanks for asking about asset management. I think it's something that not enough people talk about on podcasts like this. But now back to the last question for each of you, and Alain, you're going first. How can listeners learn more about you?
Yeah, so please reach out to me by email. My email address is alainvillegas@yahoo.com. That's ALAIN VILLEGAS @yahoo.com. You can also reach me out in Facebook, Alain Villegas, and also in LinkedIn. I'm based in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, but we are open to other markets as well in terms of acquisitions. But we love providing great value to our investors. So if you're looking to passively invest, please reach out to me. My phone number is 317-440-1116. And so I look forward to your listeners. Brian, thank you for having me, and highly recommended this podcast, your podcast, and also recommend this to all the listeners. Recommend this to all your friends, and hope you get some lessons from our discussion today.
Yeah. Hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. And for the listeners, if you want to get in touch with Alain, highly recommended. I will put his email address and links to his Facebook, LinkedIn profiles in the show notes, just to make it a lot easier for you guys. Just, tap, scroll, tap again, and it'll whisk you away to, whatever you're looking for. Michael, same question for you.
Thanks, Brian. So yeah, as you know, I'm overseas. So there's plenty of ways to invest overseas or even out of state. And so what I did was put together a guide where there's 4 different ways that you can invest either out of state or overseas. You can get that guide at www.adventurousrei.com/guide. You can download that for free. And you can also reach out to me on my email at exploremore@adventurousrei.com. And just check out our website at adventurousrei.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and things like that as well.
All right. Barnhart. Sounds good. So yeah, and I'll also put links to social media profiles and Adventurous REI and your email address in the show notes. So anybody who's looking to get in contact with him. Or you can show up at our Friday, meetup, and information for that's on LinkedIn, because, you and Susie are, kind of the plank holders on that group. So anyway, hey, thank you so much to the two of you for being on the podcast today. Very much appreciated, and look forward to talking to you guys again soon.